Welcome back, everyone, to A Plus Parents. And okay, oftentimes I say I have like a treat for you. I'm excited about something, but today I'm going to blow your minds today because I have probably the coolest person that I have met in a long time. And with me today is Nicole, the math lady. And first of all, I have to tell you how I met Nicole. So I was at a homeschool convention in Orlando, Florida. I think it was Orlando. Anyway, and we run into each other, all these things. And I go through the vendor list and I'm looking to see, well, who's here? And I see this thing, Nicole, the math lady. And I'm like, yeah, I wonder who that person is. So I go by and I meet Nicole and I was like, oh, you are cool, right? You're so cool. So we struck up a friendship. We've been, chatting ever since then. And so just so you know a little bit about Nicole, she is, so besides she's super cool, right? Which you're going to find out as you hear about her, but she holds a BA in economics and a BA in psychology. So she's a business person that's going to get in your head, and she's a math person, right? And then she does the thing called sex and math. And so I can't wait to talk more about that because, we come from different worlds in the math world. She lives in Orlando, Florida, married to her husband, Don, and she has two young people in her life, Justin and Sydney. So I'll make sure I got their names. Anyway, Nicole, I can't tell you how excited I am to have you here. So first of all, welcome to A Plus Parents, and thanks for making your day work to be here.
Thank you, Dennis. You see, I'm like grinning like a fool from like ear to ear because I'm just like, again, I feel the same way. Like one of my favorite people to talk to. Like you and I could literally talk for hours. I think your greatest challenge will be like, how do you edit this down to like a little podcast, not little, but a podcast that everybody can enjoy? Because you and I could be like 3 hours later still talking. So
absolutely
happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll talk an hour before. We'll record. We'll do another hour after. We'll be fine. Okay. So it's all good. Yeah, right.
Awesome.
Which is so great. Okay, so you have a story, right? And it's great because when we look at how did we end up doing the things we're doing today, when I got out of college, doing what I'm doing in the math world, if my math teachers even knew I was doing this today, they'd probably just roll over in the grave. They'd be like, what, and, so I look today at who I am and what I'm doing. And, it is a passion for me and it is who I am. And, when I see the young people around you, and it's so fun to be at the convention and watch how they, they run up, they stand in line and we take a picture with you. And it's just so cool. But, you have a great story about how you became Nicole, the math lady. So let's start there. That's who you are today, right?
Yeah.
But that's not that probably wasn't in your plans early on, right? But here you are today. So just hearing your story, I think is, first of all, I think our listeners are going to love it, right? And just to get to know more about us as people, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. So, it's funny because people hear, oh, Nicole, the math lady. I've heard of her, and she teaches kids and she does these videos, and that's like cool. We definitely can talk about that. But like I always say that's chapter 10 of the 10 chapter book, right? And chapters 1 through 9, there's a whole lot of stuff that happened in 1 through 9 that I call real life. Real life happened. So let's start with chapter 1, and I'll do the quick version of chapter 1. Graduated from college. Little fancy degree. I was going to go out there and do my little business thing. And I got into the business world and I was like, I don't think I like this corporate world. This is not for me. Right. So let's fast forward to the good stuff, right? Had my first kid. That was Sydney. Sydney was a beautiful baby. And then at 1 year old, life happened. At 1 year old, Sydney was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, right? Not ready for that. No family history, nothing. Had no idea how to do it. But I was like, it's an interesting disease because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna I want to handle this. I had spreadsheets and color-coded things. And like the doctors were like, we've never seen anybody do this before. But I also say it was like the perfect disease because it like broke the perfectionist in me. For anybody out there who might be a perfectionist or trying to be one, it broke the perfectionist in me, right? Because it's just something the care of it, you can't perfectionize. So it's good. And that needed to break in me. But then fast forward 5 years, I have my beautiful son, Justin, bouncing baby boy. And then 3 years after, he was born, he was diagnosed with autism. And that was really hard. Like I kind of could figure out how type 1 diabetes worked. That was a very straightforward path, but autism was not. And I know a lot of people in the homeschool world, they may have challenges with their kids as well around certain learning disabilities or differences, as I choose to call them. So it was hard. It really knocked me on my back, to be quite honest. and I said, okay, like my life needs to change because I was doing a life where I was traveling and I was doing training and teaching, but for adults. And I said, you know what? I need to come home. I need to be with Justin. I need to take care of Justin. And that's what I did. But I said, well, I need to like make some money. I need to like eat. So I said, what do you love to do, Nicole? And I was like, I love to teach. Clear, I did not want to teach in the school systems. Like that was not what I wanted to do. And I just wanted to teach. So I started just tutoring kids one-on-one. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I can do this for the rest of my life, like just work one-on-one with kids, that would be fantastic. And then I was way far away from this one student. I was like, oh, I can't make it out there. Maybe I'll just make a video. Maybe I'll just make her a math video and I'll send her the video. And hence, Nicole the Math Lady was born. I made my first video for a student who just lived too far away, and then put it on YouTube, and then it kind of blew up from there. So, the reason I tell that story is because a lot of people like to focus on like wow, you're doing all these cool things. And I was like, yeah, but like real life was happening the entire time, and as it happens for, I think many people, I think it happens for everybody, right? Like we have real life that's just going on in the background and we're responding to it. So that's my story, Dennis.
I love that story. It's so great. Yeah. And, you look at like, how it got started, right? And it's kind of like it's accidentally on purpose, I think is a good way to say that, right?
Yes.
We kind of like we did something because we were filling a need and we were filling a gap, and, what could be done. And then from there, you find out that people are wanting this and they're looking for it and they want to find you. And, and here we are today doing the things we do.
Right.
It's interesting. So because you've been, and it's one thing, a lot of times as developing curriculum and thinking about the things we do, being a homeschool family is huge because we know what's going on in the background. And we know that there's special needs going on. We know that the kids are all learning differently, right? And, and I came from the classroom, but getting out of the classroom was, I could see that as having experience, but I also knew that I didn't fit. Like I was the oddball,
the odd
in the
man
group,
out.
right? Yeah, absolutely, right. I was like, yeah, this doesn't, now it was kind of like the kid that didn't fit in the classroom. I was the teacher that didn't fit in the classroom, and I just needed to find a new way to be able to express myself and to be able to share with that same idea of being able to be a teacher and to share with people and to do what we're passionate about. So it's just so great. Okay, but I always, this is a fun question for me, because we get students and, and our kids learn so many different ways. And it's one of the things that I love, that you and I get to do what we do, but we do it from kind of a different perspective, right? So, so Saxon, right? And I know we get the conversation and we get the kids that come in, and what's funny about Saxon is that, at least in my experience, is that the kids are on one of two sides of the street. They either love it or they hate it, and there's not that much in the middle of it, right?
Yeah.
So how did Saxon become the thing for you? Like, because you obviously love it. And here's what's great. How I know you love it is because you're so great at it. And the kids are like, these kids that do it, they just adore you. So how did Saxon become your thing?
So here's a funny story. Again, so my daughter was in a school. Her school used Saxon. So I knew Saxon. So when I decided, and the student that I was tutoring that I made the video for was using Saxon. So I just started with what I knew, right? People are like, well, you must think that's the best one. And I go, well, I think it's a great curriculum, but I think there's many great curriculums, right? To me, it's funny, I actually have a whole other workshop topic that we talk about, like, how do you find your math match? To me, it's about, there's different types of curriculums out there. All students are different. We have to do our best to find a math match. So while I think Saxon's a great curriculum and it has been very good to me and I love teaching it, I think there's other things that are fantastic and great, and that might even be, great or better matches for some students. So, I say for people, if you love it, great. I teach it like exactly how it is in the book, but I add a little Nicole spice to it. We make it fun. We have a great time, but there's also lots of other ways to learn math.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so great. And, you and I, we were talking right before we got started, and it's great because having that economics background and that business background, right? And actually my undergrad is in business, which is kind of funny. And I ended up in the education world, but when you think about industry and you think about business and you think about companies, and, the fact that you and I we're as close as we are and we're friends with each other, and we're like, you could say we're competitors, but I don't ever feel like that. You know what? And I feel like that a lot about the homeschool people that I met and other
Yeah.
people that do math programs, any program really. But, when I talk to the different people and different vendors to do the math programs, it's like, we actually are serving a community, and we're
Yes.
serving an amazing population with the homeschool community. And it's like, we know, like, the things that work for me may not work for you, and
Right.
and our students, they like our program, or they see your program like, no, this is the one that fits for me, right? And
Right.
I love that we get to collaborate this way and get to be able to get to know each other, because in the business world, that's kind of a no-no, and it's just like, it's just funny. But I think for us, it's like, and you said this as we were first getting started, so I want you to share more about that. Is like,
Yeah.
the idea that our homeschoolers, we're actually serving a community. We're not serving a customer base that we just want that. Like, my toothpaste is not any better than your toothpaste. It's kind of like, but we're
No,
actually taking
completely.
care of people, right?
Well,
And I
here's the
think
thing.
that's great.
At the heart of it, you and I are teachers, right? And our big thing is to teach, and to teach kids who want to learn, are ready to learn, or not ready to learn, like to reach kids. So at the end of the day, I don't really care how that happens. Like, I don't really care if it's me, Nicole, who's the teacher. If I'm not the best teacher for a kid, great. Like, let's go find another one. Like, I want kids to learn, period. And yeah, I've been lucky enough to be able to develop, Nicole standing in front of a board. My board's right over there where I stand and teach math. I've been able to develop that into a business, but the business is so not at the forefront of what I'm doing. At the forefront of what I'm doing is teaching kids. And thankfully, people said, oh, I like the way you teach kids. I'll come and hang out with you for a little bit. But like, it's funny, like at Nicole, the math lady, if we find a kid who's like, I'm not the right fit for it, we like recommend, Mr. D all the time. We're like, go check out Mr. D. He's great. Like, you can, like, I don't do calculus. Okay. Mr. D does calculus. Go to Mr. D. At the end of the day, our heart is for teaching. I don't really care how that teaching gets done. I just care that it gets done. And that at the end of the day, we're lighting a fire for kids, because I look at my son, right? I homeschool my son. Not everybody can reach my son. And there's great teachers he's had a great teacher before I took him out of public school, who like was dedicated and loved him, but like she was not able to really reach him for whatever reason. I had to find another resource. So that's what I think about when I'm looking for resources for my son, is I'm like, who's going to be the best fit for Justin? And we're just going to go look for that until we can find it, and for me, it doesn't say anything about like, oh, that's the good one, that's not the good. No, it's about teaching, it's about people, it's about fit, it's about right fit. And then we as parents need to do our due diligence to find right fits for our kids.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's great. When you think about being a homeschool family, right? It's like, I'm not doing science. I'm not doing history. It's not my thing, right?
Right.
I'm happy to do math. And what's funny was my son, he's almost 18 now, right? And
Yeah.
when he was probably in third or fourth grade, and he first started, and we were going through and having to do the math program, and he was just telling me, Dad, this is just weird. I don't think you're the right person for me, and so he wanted to go out and find another way to do it. And and then he started doing another program, and he came back to me later, and he goes, oh, I want to do your class now. So
Yeah.
it's funny, right? He kind of found his own way back to what we were doing. And fortunately, he was still in elementary school, which was great. So he got ready to do our middle school programs.
Yeah.
But I think oftentimes, like when young people are like, they're, us as parents, right? We outsource so many different things, right?
Yeah.
And you and I had talked about this before. It's like, the outsourcing is really for us to see how can we do what's best for our kids, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes people are a little resistant to that. They think about the idea of, I have to do it all on my own. And I have this funny thing. I get moms that come back and they're like, I was looking at the math video and I finally understand this stuff, right? And I get so excited when I hear that. And but the funny thing to me is, it's like, we're actually doing this for young people, right? And I'm excited when moms will come back and go, oh my gosh, I get this for myself now too, because there comes this time, like you said, like when it comes to calculus, right? Well, okay, that's where, that's it. That's the end of the road. And now we're going to go somewhere else. And I think oftentimes parents get a little stuck because they get to where they say it's above my pay grade, right?
Right.
And
Right.
you get to that place where it's like, well, what do I do here? Because this isn't my area of expertise. And how do you outsource? And you actually
Yeah.
work with people on how to find the right fit for things. So
Yeah.
share a little more about that, because I think it's really great.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So I'm in like an 8 million Facebook groups as a homeschool parent, right? Like sometimes I feel like I'm creeping around, like, why is Nicole the math lady in this group? Because I homeschool too, and I also need resources and inspiration and motivation just as much as any other mom or dad out there, right? So the first thing that I came across is I think sometimes parents think if you say you're going to homeschool, that means that you have to do it all yourself. Like that's what you're signing up for. And I just don't believe that. Like I believe you are, I hate to kind of use that word, the CEO of your homeschool, but you are like the cool part about being a CEO is that you get to manage the process, you get to oversee the process. It doesn't mean you need to do every single part of the work yourself. You can find good people and manage that part of it and oversee it. So I think, if you're somebody who's like, nope, I want to do it all myself, I'm like, power to you. I was not that person. I just was like, I had other things I wasn't great at, other things I wanted to do, so fine. So if you're like, yeah, I think I would like a little bit of extra help or support, or I'd like to outsource this piece. The question is how do you do it, right? How do you do it properly, right? So the first thing is about finding the right match for your team, which means you got to find the right match for your student, but you also have to find the right match for you as the CEO of your school, right? You got to find somebody you think is like a good fit for your style, shows up the way you want them to, the program works the way you want it to, they're responsive to you. All that stuff matters, as well as them being able to teach your child in a way that works for your child, So part of it is just giving people permission to say, you get to manage this. Like you're in charge of your child's education, and you're fully empowered. You know how to do it. You're not deferring to anybody. Like you know best what's going to work for your child, even if you're not the one doing it yourself, And in those moments where, let's say you've signed up for something and you're like, I'm not sure that that's really the right fit. You get to say, you know what? That doesn't work for me. We're going to try something else. That's okay because you're in charge. I want to give people that freedom to be like, here we go. We hand it over to you and you're going to, and here's how I know it. Like, I know dads are definitely involved, in homeschooling, but let's say most of it are moms, right? And most mamas I know are running their house like with 5 plates spinning, and they're getting this plate spinning over here, they're getting this plate spinning over here. So I already know how to do it. If you know how to run your house, you know how to do it, right? Now you just need to take what you're doing and running your house and you need to run your school, the same way. So whether you're hiring teachers or outsourcing, like sometimes people think means I need to pay for everything. No, you know who I outsource piano lessons to, or piano practice to? Piano practice every day. My mother, my mother and my father are my son's audience every day for piano practice. They call him at a certain time and it's like time for the recital, and he does his practice and they get to spend time and they're interested and they're excited and they're like, oh, that was fabulous. Can you try it one more time? It doesn't even seem like practice, because he's doing a recital for his grandparents, So you get to be creative and you get to outsource and find solutions. Like to me, like that's the glory of homeschooling is you get to make it work for your kid.
That is awesome. Oh my gosh, how fun. You're saying that and sharing that, right? And I'm like, I want to come to the recital, It's so great.
Oh yeah. Cause
Right.
I'm telling you something, after 3:00, I don't work that well, right? After 3:00,
Right.
I'm kind of dead. So like when it's time for piano, I'm like, I need somebody else to do this because like all the like oomph that I had, yeah, that I gave
Yeah.
that in the morning, right? So with my
Right.
grandparents are like very excited and they're like, love talking to him and he loves talking to them. And if we get piano lessons and they read a book over Zoom every day. or they read
Wow.
a portion of a book every day. I
Yeah.
outsource wherever I can.
I love that. And what great people to outsource to, right? It's just, it's
Right.
great. And it's like you really are bringing family together and everybody gets to participate in the homeschool journey. It's just
Yeah.
so great.
Yeah.
I know there's people listening right now. They're like, oh my gosh, they're going to take that on like that.
Yeah.
You can hear the recitals are coming, right?
Call the
Book time, Nicole.
grandparents, call the aunties and uncles, call the bigger siblings, call the smaller siblings, right? All they need is an audience. So and you
Right,
can have a different audience every day of the week if you need to. Like I'm lucky that my parents want to do it,
right.
but
Oh my
the
gosh.
point is you're in charge, be creative. We find solutions, we make things work.
Right. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay. Oh, you know what? I thought of a question I wanted to ask
Okay,
you.
cool.
How did you come up with Nicole the Math Lady? How did that name come up?
Okay, so somewhere in those 1 through 9 chapters, I also was the person on the block that parents would send their kids to help them with math. Like I don't know, the kids, I guess the word kind of had spread like, oh, if you need help with math, like she'll help you. So kids would come to my house, hey, Mrs. Thomas, can you help me with this, math problem? Sure. And like literally, like one of the kids in the neighborhood was like, you're Nicole, the math lady. And I was like, when I was thinking about a name for my company, I was like, let's just keep it simple here, people. Call the math
That's
lady.
I love that. Wait,
So,
because people say they go, well, how'd you, Mr. D, where'd that come from? Right. And I'm like, well, they can't say my last name, and that was what happened when I was a public school teacher. It was like
right.
nobody could pronounce my last name. And I was like, you just Mr. D's fine, right? So
Yeah.
it's just that, that's and then people are like, well, wait, was that your grade point average? No, 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 really was just my last name, right? So turns out it was my first name too. That worked out great.
I love
But
it.
yeah, it's just funny that about how those things happen. But it's interesting because I was in the tutoring world for a long time. So my story about tutoring is kind of funny because when I was working as a public school teacher, I tell people, like for me, I did what a lot of public school teachers did at the end of the day, especially for in my world, because I was, providing for family and all that stuff, right? So I
Yeah.
went to my second job, right? And it was,
Yeah.
3 o'clock, man, my contract time's over, I'm out the door. What was I doing? I was teaching more math. And,
Yeah.
it was doing that. It wasn't that I was a public school teacher that I got where I got to in how to teach math, and how to listen and how to get, what was happening. But it
Yes.
actually was the tutoring.
Yeah.
And what was interesting to me was that I could go and I could see, 20, I ended up used to go to people's houses, and I had so many students that I had to I had to have them come to me. So I opened up an office, they came to me,
Yeah.
and by the end of the week, the thing that I would see is I could see kids that were in algebra 2, right? But they're in algebra 2, but I was seeing them come from 5 or 6 different schools with 5 or 6 different teaching styles. And typically they'd be, if they came from a private school or public school, wherever they came from, there'd be different textbooks.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I was the student, because
Yeah.
I learned so much from learning about what they were learning about, that when it came time to create courses, it wasn't like I came up with this is a way to do it. It was like I had this like library. I was like an encyclopedia of math because of the tutoring. So did you
Right.
notice that too? Like bringing in all those different skills when you start creating videos?
Well, for me, I love what you said because I completely agree, right? So what I loved, and it's funny, my first tutoring job I got at age 17. I remember the guidance counselor, who I don't ask me why I knew my guidance counselor very well, but she had like called me in her office and she was like, "Do you want to tutor this kid in math?" And I was like, "Sure, like I'm good at math, I can explain it." And what I love about tutoring, because as opposed to teaching like a class of 30, is that when you have one student in front of you, you can see immediately whether or not they got what you were trying to deliver, right? And if they didn't, then it's like I say, you bring out the tool belt, right? You bring out the tool belt of like, okay, so we tried it like this. We tried option A. Let's go to option B and see if option B works. And you're like, you pull out your next big thing and you're like, ta-da! And then you look at them and they're like, okay, so option B didn't work. We're gonna mix it up. We're gonna try option C. I got you. Like to me, that's what's so exciting. It's like that dance of trying it this way, but you didn't quite get in that way. So we're gonna come over here and try it another way. We didn't quite get in that way. So let's try it another. Oh, I got it. So you needed something that was more visual. You needed something that was more tactile. You needed something that was more auditory. Like you needed to mix it up. And to me, that's the glory of teaching, and particularly in homeschool, because you get to see whether or not it sunk in, as a parent, at least I'm talking about a parent, and you get to say, let me try it this way. That didn't quite do it. Let me try it another way. So like I try to bring that to my parents, right? Like I try to bring it into my videos, like trying to teach in a number of different ways and styles to try to reach students. But then also we try to give our parents like different tools to say, okay, let's say it didn't hit them quite this way. Try another way. Maybe we'll have another video. Like we have different sets of videos. Let's try it this way. Like that to me is the exciting part of teaching. It's
Mm.
because when homeschooling, who you're teaching to. They're sitting right in front of you. They're telling you whether or not they're getting it by their face or their looks or their, I don't wanna, So
Yeah.
you get to bend and flex. And isn't that the exciting part of teaching?
Oh, for sure. It kind of opens up for us as the teacher, right?
Yes.
Because we get opened up to all these different learning styles, which helps us communicate better. It helps us listen in a way that we maybe wouldn't have listened before. Especially you've got 3 kids at home, right? And
Yeah.
you're looking at and you're sharing one thing, and all 3 of them hear it completely differently. They all have a different learning style. So you're adapting all the time, and
All the
I
time.
think it's, I tell our homeschool families, like they are heroes, this
Yep.
who they are and who they get to be for all the people that we get to work with, but who they are for their family and these kids. And we
Yeah.
watch them grow up. And, I keep getting the stories back now from, our students that are now they've gone to college and around their life and they're just doing amazing things. And it's,
Yeah.
it's just, it's heartwarming, right. In a way. And
Yeah.
it's just great.
It's like
So,
I came through homeschooling. I started in the pandemic, right? Like I actually had the opportunity to zoom into my son's classroom and see what was going on. And I saw what was going on and I was like, nope, we're
yeah.
not doing this. I don't know what we're gonna do, but this is not working. So I pulled him out and I said, okay, not exactly how I had planned it. I mean, I thought at some point I might start homeschooling him. I was going to try to get the business on its feet first, but everything happened at one time, like spinning plates. But I just knew, I was like, we're going to figure this out. Like it's me, it's him. We're going to figure out the best way to reach him, and I've been given this unique challenge. We're just going to figure it out. We're going to try until we get it right. And I can't say that we always have it right. Nope. I am not here to be like, oh, we got it perfect. No, we did not. I got something that's working, I think, right now. If you'd have seen me last year, Dennis, you'd have been like, oh, you better send that kid back to school.
Well, yeah, and we get to this place where something's working and we think, oh man, hooray, we got it going right. And then we find out,
Yeah.
oh, that's not working anymore, right? And so here we go. We're back to it. We're going to start creating again. And what else? What other tool? What other our new tools we're going to add to our tool belt
That's
that we
right.
can
That's
put in.
right. So
It's
that's what
so
we're
great.
doing. It's funny when I'm done with you. What am I doing next? I'm gonna go teach Justin math.
That's awesome.
We're
Well,
gonna
at
go
least
do math, and
so
as I said, it's working. Everything's working right now. Like luckily, we got his math, we got his science, we got his social studies. Things are rolling. But I
right.
know the moment I say that, something's gonna fall out of place. But that's okay because
Yeah.
we're on this journey together to make it work.
Absolutely. And that's how we do it. So, well, that's awesome. Okay. So people that want to find out more about you, it's NicoleTheMathLady.com,
Yes.
right? Oh, good. And I've looked on seen on your site, you've got all kinds of cool stuff for people just to kind of check out what you're doing and find out more about what you do and how you do it, and specifically related to, because I think one of the things you filled one of the biggest concerns that people had when they're working with Saxon, and that was,
Yeah.
how do you get support with this curriculum?
Yeah.
Because there are things about it that are really, really great. And then there are the people when they kind of get stuck and they don't know where to go, right?
Yeah.
And you have filled this amazing, I don't want to say void, but void. I'm going to use that word, right? But there was this missing, right? And you put in something that was there that was so much needed for people that needed that extra support. And
Yeah.
it's just great. So I know young people are doing
Thank
great
you.
with it. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
I think one of the things, and I started hearing this from our customers. Like, can I tell you something really funny? When I
Of
started, I was
course.
only going to do 4 textbooks. Because I like middle school, like middle school is like my sweet spot. So I was just going to do like the middle school books, right? And then I went to my first conference and I met some families and they were like, Nicole, I need you to start younger. I need you to start so I don't want to have to start something else and then move over to you. I was like, okay. I hadn't really thought of myself as a younger kids teacher. So we started working younger and the kids liked it. So we're like, okay, great. And then they were like, Nicole, I don't want to switch. Can you do something a little older? And I was like, I could go a little bit older. Like I can't go like all the way to calculus. Like, I mean, I could, but I'm not willing. I
Right.
don't really want to learn it all over again. I just tell the truth. I tell the truth. I tap out. So y'all go see Mr. D, you know. So I'll go up to pre-calc, right? I go all the way up to pre-calc. And then we started hearing from families like the grading, I'm sure you probably know, the grading portion, Saxon has a lot of practice problems, like a lot of practice problems.
Right.
And to grade it, if you're not on top of the grading, the program can't really be effective. So we started doing automated grading, which to me now as a parent who uses my program, I think the grading is even better than the videos. And I really like the videos.
Wow.
The
Oh, that's very
grading,
cool.
it makes life easy. If you can make life easy for your homeschool parent, all the better. So then we
Right.
started with that. And then, as you said, we started offering support, you know, like there's different tools that we have, like we call them 1-minute tutorials or master classes or something called Mastery Bank, where there's extra support when the kids need help. When the kid turns to the mom, they're like, I don't know how to do. And the parent's like, well, I don't know how to do. They can come back to us and we can help them, you know, get through any rough spots or even give them chances to excel for those who are in that position. So I think what we just try to do is just try to listen to our parents, see what they need, listen to our kids, see what they need. And I'm having a blast. As I know you are, we're having a blast. So just trying
Absolutely.
to take
I
care of
mean,
our
there
families.
isn't anything else I'd rather be doing than what
Yeah.
I'm doing. You know, it's like
Yeah.
people are like, well, what do you do for work? I'm like, work. Oh, you mean what do I do in my life? Oh, there's that because I play all day long and it's like fun, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. It's
no,
great.
it's
I mean,
great.
and here's what I tell people. It's funny. My daughter's just started college right now, right? You know, when you get to college, everybody's like, what are you majoring in? What are you majoring in? And I keep telling her, you don't have to answer that question. Take your time, play, try things, see what's out there, because I could not have told you. If someone had asked me back then, what could I have, what do you want to do for a career? Right? There was this thing called teacher and it looked a certain way. Stand up in front of a class in front of 30 kids. Like what I do now, because of the internet, has changed everything. I couldn't have described it back then. I couldn't have put a label on it back then. So I said, your job is to go and find what you love, like love, like would do if nobody paid you. Go do that. And then your career, you can create a career within that. I believe you can do that. And I really believe that for everybody, you know?
Absolutely. It's funny because I end up sharing this quite a bit and I shared even more than I thought I would, but I think back to when I was in school and I was young and I was in my teens, and there were the things that I loved to do. No one ever said to me, oh, that's going to be your career.
Mhm.
They were like, well, that might be your hobby, right? But that's not going to be your career.
Yeah.
So you need to focus on this. And so when it came time for college, I didn't do what I love to do. In fact, I went, it's kind of similar. Like I went into that business degree. I got corporate America job. I hated it. I was just, it was just like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And and then I started, well, what else is there? And I actually discovered teaching by working with a young person. He was in my church youth group, right? And
Yeah.
he came in one day, he's got his math book with him and he goes, hey, can you help me with this? And I was like, yeah, sure. I was pretty good at math, right? Well, this was almost 40 years ago. It's kind of funny, right? But when he looked at me, he goes, wow, he goes, you explained this better than my teacher did. And that moment, it was like that there was no work going on. I was like, I love this. This is like, I'm watching something happen. I'm doing something that is just like, I'm finding my own joy in it and I'm finding myself in it. And that was the beginning of the teaching career. And it was like, next thing I knew, I was like, nope, I'm going to get an education, but I had to do kind of like you said, I was like, I didn't know what it could look like other than go to the classroom. So I did that. And then I realized, wait, there's a whole world out there that can be created. And here we are. So
Here we are.
yeah. But I love today because I think today we're asking young people, and you said about your daughter, right? We're asking young people today, what do you love to do? And from there, let it start to unfold and like focus on that so that your career path can find you instead of it being the other way around, where it's like we're trying to do something, trying to get this job so that we can have money so we can go do the things we love to do, instead of why aren't we just doing what we love to do and make money while you're doing it, right? And that has become the new thing. And I love that's happening in education. And it's like more and more now it's becoming the norm. And that to me, that is the most exciting thing to me, to see that we're actually encouraging people to start there. It's like,
Yeah.
what is it that you love to do? And then, and let it go from there. So it was so
What
great.
I like to add to that is that, like, sometimes what it is that you love, people like don't even know how to answer that question, right?
Right.
Like it's not like, well, I like math or science. It could be like, I like organizing things. Like I like in my house, I get up every morning and I organize my kitchen. So you're an organizer. That it's a lot broader than those like 10 majors that exist in college. Like there's so
Right.
much more to us than like, or I really like, being like helpful to somebody else. I like making other people's dreams come true. Like that's a skill. There's skills in there that careers can blossom from, but you got to like go through the eye of the needle and be like, so what does it mean to be an organizer? What does it mean to be a facilitator?
Right.
So
Absolutely. That's a discovery. That's so great, because that's what you discover while you're in high school, while you're in college. You can start discovering what that looks like. And yeah,
right.
that's so funny.
Yeah.
You said organizer, because I think back to what you said about the color coding with your daughter, right? And I was like, yeah, you're an organizer, girl. I got you, right?
Definitely. I'm a total organizer.
That's so great. Oh my
So
gosh. Okay. Well, we got to come back and do this again, because I
love
just, it's like, yeah, we'll take the next cut at this and what it looks like. And for everyone today, I hope you had as much fun as I just did hanging out with Nicole, the math lady. So Nicole, again, thanks. I know you're off to do things now, and you're under your own math teaching world, and there's
well,
recitals, and you got a
it's
whole busy
funny. My
day, right?
son is standing outside the door going, it must be time for my math lesson because I can hear
TikTok,
him.
mom, let's go.
It never stops, right?
It never, that is so great. Oh, I love it. Oh my goodness. Well, it was so great to have you here, and we're going to do this again. So everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for listening to A+ Parents, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.